big question now is, will Netflix subscribers stick with the service even as prices are going up sharply? Mike Olson is the top-ranked Netflix analyst, according to Bloomberg, and is a senior analyst with Piper Jaffray. He has an overweight recommendation on the stock that's up nearly 144% in the past year. He joins us now from Minneapolis. And first of all, Mike, what do you think the motivation is behind this price hike? And is it really going to bring in more revenue for Netflix?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Netflix is certainly trying to move subscribers to streaming, and there's certainly a good reason for that. A streaming subscriber is a more profitable subscriber for Netflix. I agree with some of the commentary that we heard earlier on the show that ARPU is going to be, average revenue per user, that is going to be going lower, but that's okay as long as profitability per subscriber is going higher.
Thanks for clarifying that ARPU thing. Does Netflix need this extra cash to secure the necessary content deals? Is that really the problem here?
Well, they're definitely looking to add new streaming content, and we've assumed in our 2012 estimates that we're going to see about $1.5 billion in streaming content costs versus somewhere in the $800 to $900 million range this year. So they're looking for ways to increase revenue, but they're also looking, like I said, for ways to just increase profitability and ultimately help the long-term margins of the business.
All right, Mike, I want to bring in our editor-at-large, Cory Johnson, back into this conversation. He's been working on his own Netflix model. Cory?
Yeah, and the biggest bogey in my model going forward is marketing costs. It seems like a dial that Netflix can turn up or down, not just quarter by quarter, probably day by day, but over the long-term future of this business. Isn't the ability to spend on marketing the most crucial sort of lever for them?
I think that is very critical. When we envision Netflix, we kind of envision them behind closed doors pulling a couple levers. And one lever is increased content costs, and the other lever is marketing. And each quarter they kind of pull those levers depending on which they want to spend more on, and ultimately get to the right EPS number depending on which they end up at. Last quarter they spent more on marketing, and it seems to be resulting in higher subscriber adds this quarter. Potentially this quarter they spend more on content. It kind of varies on a quarter-by-quarter basis.
Mike, what do you think the kind of growth we're going to see from this company is going to be in terms of subscriber additions? Because that number, I think strangely, has driven the stock.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue to see pretty strong subscriber addition numbers. I think international is going to change everything. You know, initially it's going to be relatively immaterial, but we do assume that they'll have 3.5 million international subs by the end of next year. So we're going to see sub ads largely driven by international at this point, at least once we get into 2012 and 2013.
Mike, we've been talking a lot about potential buyers for Hulu. Netflix really hasn't showed any interest that we know of. Should Netflix look into buying Hulu?
No, I don't think that would make a ton of sense. I think you can make sense out of some of the other names that have been thrown out there, like Google or Amazon or potentially Microsoft or Yahoo. But I think for Netflix, given they already have the content deals, they have the subscriber base, you know, it just doesn't make as much sense.
Mike, you talk about the growth in international. Internationally, unlike in the U.S., there are limits to how much a customer can download, both in Canada, in Asia, and in parts of Europe. Do you think that, at what point, I should ask, does that hamper Netflix?
It could be an issue. You know, like you said, domestically, that just has not been a problem to date. We haven't seen the MSOs really putting any sort of restrictions on broadband usage. But internationally, that could be a problem. In Canada, we've seen it with Rogers and some of the other major MSOs putting restrictions on, and Netflix has responded by kind of tweaking the video quality somewhat to allow for greater kind of content download for the same amount of bandwidth. And I think those are the kinds of unique things that they're going to have to try to do internationally if they face those roadblocks.
So, Mike, obviously Netflix shares have been on a roll. How long do you really think it can continue at that rate?
Well, we still feel very confident for a couple reasons. One is that I do think that the increased content costs that a lot of people are nervous about are fully built into our model, and I think that There's certainly a big opportunity internationally. And I think, you know, beyond what they've done as far as just adding these additional countries in Latin America, you know, we should see Western Europe and other geographies within the next 12 to 18 months. So there's a huge opportunity out there on that front.
All right, Mike Olson of Piper Jaffray, thank you so much for joining us. We will continue to track Netflix's international expansion and structural changes. Now,